They said that Gruden wants to burn the house down.
John Gruden gets a big win in his fight against the NFL. The great state of Nevada has ruled in John Gruden's favor, and Chucky is ready to take Roger Goodell through his grinder. In our Gruden episode last month, I mentioned that we hadn't heard anything about this case for a while and it seemed like it was going nowhere. I was wrong. Again. In a rare win for the individual versus the corporation, I'm back with another edition of La Nada Sports. And I do love a good local news report about it.
Today, a Nevada court cleared the way for a 2021 lawsuit filed by former Las Vegas Raiders coach John Gruden to proceed against the NFL and Commissioner Roger Goodell.
Ah yes, Roger Goodell. Yes, Mr. Goodell. I'll briefly recap why Gruden is suing or going to sue the NFL today for those of you who might not know or remember this lawsuit. More importantly, I'll tell you what this massive ruling by the Nevada Supreme Court means for John Gruden and his fight against the NFL and what might happen next, including a battle at our great nation's Supreme Court. And I, for one, cannot think of a better use of time by our country's Supreme Court than some football-adjacent pissing contest between and
Roger Goodell
regarding emails from a decade ago.
He sued the league. He sued the commissioner, and the question had lingered since November of 2021, will he be required to go to arbitration, or will he be able to go to open court and litigate?
Honestly, I'm happy for John Gruden, and not just because he personally loves my YouTube channel.
That's Good Sports. It's on YouTube. Check it out.
That's totally him talking about That's Good Sports and not a cameo that we paid for. Also, we are less than 8,000 subscribers away from 775,000 subs.
Brag, 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 brag.
Trying to get to 775 before the football season starts. I didn't think we had a chance, but we got a puncher's chance. If we hit that number, it will be the most subs I've ever added in the month of August, so thank you guys.
And then you guys do a video. It's great.
I must start by noting that this was a real sentence on Pro Football Talk about the John Gruden case. They wrote, John Gruden made a Hail Mary pass in the Nevada Supreme Court, and it went for a touchdown. That sounds like it was 100% written by AI and not a guy who talks about football every day of his life. If one makes a Hail Mary pass, isn't the touchdown implied? Anyway, this case is interesting for multiple reasons. First, Gruden's win in the Nevada Supreme Court is not a win for his lawsuit in regard to whether or not the league leaked his emails. All this ruling means is that the league cannot force this case into arbitration proceedings overseen by my one true commander and beacon for safety, Mr. Roger Goodell himself. Yes, all of this time spent in court over the last 2 to 3 years is just so John Gruden can maintain his legal right to sue the NFL and not be bound by its arbitration clause that aims to bind former league employees. Gruden is suing the league for leaking his emails, allegedly, which contained racist, sexist, and anti-gay comments, which Gruden was firing off when he was working for ESPN, not the league. Gruden did send numerous emails over a 7-year period, which is why it looked bad for him. It wasn't just one email. His attorneys claim the league forced the Raiders to fire him and that his emails were specifically leaked for that reason, which is interesting since his emails were the only ones leaked, right? Either the league singled him out or Gruden was on an all-time email blast run. I've got to credit Gruden for standing out in an investigation that was seeking evidence for workplace misconduct and sexual harassment by the Washington Commanders in some 650,000 emails. Did you find anything interesting yet, James? No, but you're gonna want to see what Gruden called Goodell here. Now, the NFL denied that they publicly leaked the emails. The other thought out there is that the leak actually came from Dan Snyder's side.
My name is Dan Snyder, proud owner of the Washington Red.
I'm not sure what Snyder's team thought they'd have to gain by leaking the emails, but maybe they just wanted to go full-on scorched earth. Former executive Bruce Allen at one time hinted the leak probably came from the Commander side. That's what remains the great mystery in this situation. Who done the leak?
A small handful of those emails were harvested and specifically selected by someone to be used against John Gruden.
If you don't subscribe to That's Good Sports, you're going to miss out on a lot of great sports. And Chucky's going to have to come looking for you on his golf cart.
There weren't many people that had access to those emails, so we will find out who had access to those emails.
Gruden's attorneys can show other emails with, say, similar language or offensive tones. Were also viewed by the league in the discovery process for the Commander's investigation about Dan Snyder. Then Gruden has a pretty strong case against the league. The initial investigation into the Commander saw the league review 650,000 emails, and Gruden's emails again stood out in that mess. Now, had he sent those emails while working for the league, he probably wouldn't really have a case. It's hard to defend what Gruden wrote. You can't defend what he wrote, and I'm sure none of us would have kept our jobs if our overlord read an email where we called him or her what Gruden said of Goodell, which of course was a soccer lover who watches more basketball than football. Now, since getting fired / resigning from the Raiders head coaching job, Gruden hasn't been able to get a coaching gig at a high level. He was also 4 years into that 10-year, $100 million contract, so there is substantial financial loss his team can claim. Furthermore, this ruling by the Nevada Supreme Court in Gruden's favor bodes well for common sense. They voted 5-2 to allow his lawsuit to proceed.
And this is the first time Gruden's been 5-2 because of his defense since his days with the Buccaneers. Sorry, I had to put that in there.
Gruden initially got a win in Nevada trial court, then it went to the Nevada Supreme Court, but it was the smaller version of the court where only 3 judges heard arguments instead of all 7. He lost that battle twice with 2-1 rulings against him. This new ruling means Gruden can pursue this matter how he wants, either as a civil suit moving through the courts or with what I'm assuming is a settlement with the league, which they'd be wise to do.
Have talked a lot about John Gruden really not wanting to settle. He wants to protect his reputation through all of this. So in your mind, now that we've gotten to this point, is settlement really still an option?
That's easy to say until they start putting money on the table that causes you to say, maybe I shouldn't burn the house down. And I think the other wrinkle here, does he suddenly become a viable candidate to be an NFL head coach in 2026? Coincidentally,
the league itself can appeal this ruling one last time, though. But since the Nevada Supreme Court has already heard and ruled on the case, it would then go to the Supreme Court. Essentially, John Gruden just won the NFC Championship game of court battles. The Super Bowl, still a possibility. And if this case does go to the Supreme Court, I do want to hear Sonia Sotomayor on live TV as part of the new ESPN Court Zone package ask John Gruden if the following phrase was in any of his emails about the commissioner. Mr. Gruden, did you type the words clueless anti-football pussy in an email to Bruce Allen and then actually hit the send button? And was this sent from your AOL account, BigGrudyXXVII@AOL.com? Knock on wood if you're with me, Mr. Gruden.
Sonia wins.
The NFL and Roger Goodell were trying to force Gruden to have this case go through the league's arbitration process. That's what this is about, which was a problem because Roger Goodell gets to decide who arbitrates the case, and he can even appoint himself to do that.
It's a unique type of arbitration. It's presided over by the commissioner or whoever the commissioner appoints to handle the arbitration. So it's rigged, and it's secret, and it's a kangaroo court.
This is what the Nevada Supreme Court said in their actual decision. The arbitration bylaws are inconceivable,
Inconceivable.
And they do not apply to Gruden as a former employee. The league primarily relied on the broad language of its constitution regarding the commissioner's power to have full, complete, and final jurisdiction and authority to arbitrate any dispute that, in the opinion of the commissioner, constitutes conduct detrimental to the best interests of the league or professional football. By its own unambiguous language, the NFL Constitution no longer applies to Gruden. The justices wrote, "If the NFL Constitution were to bind former employees, the commissioner could essentially pick and choose which disputes to arbitrate."
You love football, I love football. If you love all sports, subscribe to That's Good Sports.
All of that makes sense, right? Although I actually hold the NFL Constitution above the Constitution of our country. I find it more binding than my marriage license, and I have cited it several times to get out of speeding tickets. Myles Garrett. Was Gruden's conduct detrimental? Yes. He said some really dumb shit.
And what he said was just, beyond anything you've ever heard in sports.
But again, he was an ESPN employee at the time of saying all of that. And nobody would have known about the conduct if the NFL didn't allegedly leak it to the media. That's the other thing Gruden has to prove. Did the NFL leak it, or did journalists acquire it without the league's full knowledge?
John Gruden about to get a lot of money from the NFL is kind of how it sounds.
Good journalism or targeted ousting. That's what John Gruden wants to pursue in court. The Wall Street Journal broke this story on October 8th of 2021. To me, this is about how they got those documents. If the NFL handed them over to the Journal, it helps Gruden's case. The court further explained that the league's power to alter its constitution whenever it wants makes the arbitration clause unconscionable. Separately, the court refused to prevent Gruden from suing the league in court due to the presence of that arbitration clause in his contract that he signed when he rejoined the Raiders. From his attorney, we're very pleased with the Nevada Supreme Court's decision, not just for Coach Gruden, but for all employees facing an employer's unfair arbitration process, said Adam Hosmer-Hinner of McDonald Carano LLP, attorneys for John Gruden. This victory further vindicates Coach Gruden's reputation, and it clears the way to swiftly bring him full justice and holding the NFL accountable. Personally, I think this is one of the dumbest lawsuits I've ever had to cover here on Law and Order Spots. I believe both sides of this case have valid points. I believe the NFL stumbled across the emails and said, we can't have one of our head coaches saying this shit about the commissioner and our players, and we can't have him saying all of this other stuff. Dear God, he actually emailed this. I don't care that Gruden didn't work for the league when he sent them either. He was sending those emails to Bruce Allen, who fucking ran the Commanders organization. It was just dumb. Never leave a digital trail, John. Hit delete if you're with me.
Set up! Blue 85! Blue 85! Set up! Set up! Hey, Blue 85!
I also believe it's fucked up if the league chose to make those emails public. I think they could have handled this situation with Gruden privately. All right? I also think he would not be employed in the NFL right now regardless. Sure, he would have lasted a few more seasons with the Raiders because Mark Davis genuinely loves John Gruden, like so many of us. But he wasn't doing his job well in Vegas as a coach. I think from Gruden's perspective, this lawsuit, in addition to the financial restitution he's seeking, is more about trying to clear his name. He made it very clear recently he still desperately wants to coach, specifically in the SEC. He said, "I'm being honest with you. I do not bullshit either. I want to coach again. I'd die to coach in the SEC. I would love it. I would fucking love it." And I think that's his best case scenario. He reaches a settlement agreement with the NFL and then goes to college to coach. I think being ousted from the NFL for 5 years, he's paid his price by not being able to do the only thing he really loves, coaching. And I hope he does land a coaching gig in college because I think Gruden's actually perfect for that. Also, Patreon. Shout-outs for new Patreon members. I got those right now, but the info for the Patreon Fantasy Leagues, that's on Patreon for all $20 a month members. It's on the YouTube community tab for all $20 a month YouTube members. We do that every year. That info for the drafts is available. Shout-outs for Alex Lopez, Scuba Man, Midnight Rose, Jay, Owen Bonds, Daniel Setterino, Justin Jones, and Mason Jason Mordick. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Again, less than 8,000 subs away from 775. Let's start the 2025 season off with a big push.